There's this common thing in Hollywood where an actor or actress will hit a hot streak when they seemingly can't do anything wrong. Anything they're in is bound to be a success, but nothing lasts forever, and all good things must come to an end. There's always a distinct point when their time at the top ends and they're brought back down to earth, among the mortals.
Look at us, two of a kind!
There's a whole slew of big names that this has happened to in the past, and a couple of quote-unquote untouchables who exist today. How long will their hot streaks last? It's tough to say, but one guarantee is that it never lasts forever. I mean, maybe a couple people last forever, but we'll get to that a bit later on.
That's all you had to say.
You know who's the perfect example of this phenomenon? Robert De Niro.
You talking to me?
Maybe a bit of an older reference, but an excellent one nonetheless. You might know him as the dad from Meet the Parents, or the guy who does the Mueller character on Saturday Night Live, but there was a time when Bobby De Niro was the biggest star in Hollywood, and every single movie he appeared in became an instant classic.
Everybody has a favorite movie star.
Casino, Goodfellas, Raging Bull, and the list goes on and on and on. For a time, he was a superstar among mere stars. However, the other day, a friend of mine asked me what I thought about Joker, inquiring if it was worth them going to see. I replied, yeah, it's really good, I really liked it. They asked who's in it aside from Joaquin Phoenix, so I excitedly responded, Robert De Niro's in it. Their reaction was less ecstatic than I expected. It was more of a, okay, so?
Well, darling, that's impossible.
And right then and there, I realized that Robert De Niro doesn't hold the same weight he used to.
You talking to me?
Whereas he used to be a stamp of approval, and his name being attached to a project meant that it was gonna be a 10 on 10, that just isn't the case anymore. As much as it pains me to say this because he's one of my favorite performers of all time, Robert De Niro's name just doesn't mean what it used to.
That's a very good answer.
He isn't the only one this has happened to. In some way, shape, or form, this happens to every major star that has their time at the top. After a while, it ends. In fact, De Niro isn't even the only Robert this affects. It's of my expert opinion that this will soon be the case for Iron Man himself, Robert Downey Jr. Sure, we love him, but love is fleeting. So are good movies, apparently. For the past 10 years, RDJ has been universally beloved as Tony Stark. That's even seeped into other roles, as he generally ends up playing the same character in all of his movies. That character is, of course, just himself. Whether in Tropic Thunder or Sherlock Holmes, or any number of films that he's starred in since debuting as Tony Stark, they've all been relatively dud-free. I wouldn't go so far as to say that they've all been massive successes, but they definitely haven't been failures either, which is more than we can say about most professional actors. But now that his run as Iron Man is done, is Rob's streak as a lovable A-lister finished as well? I mean, let's be honest. What's the point of being an actor in Hollywood if you aren't starring in superhero movies, am I right or what? Plus, have you seen the trailer for the upcoming Dolittle movie? I mean, you're coming off the hottest couple of years of your entire career, and that's what you choose to follow it up with? I don't know, buddy. I'd have thought about that decision. You're coming off Endgame, the actual most successful movie to ever be released, and your next movie is gonna be a Dolittle remake? A remake of a franchise that wasn't even that good when it came out in the first place a decade ago? Like, what's the logic behind that remake?
It's so weird.
I can understand if they want to go younger and replace Eddie Murphy with someone like Zendaya, but Robert Downey Jr.? He's only 4 years younger than Eddie, and in terms of popularity or celebrity status, it's kind of a lateral move, isn't it? For a man who could do no wrong for the past decade, this decision simply doesn't seem like the right one.
The greater good has rarely outweighed my own self-interest.
Who else has had their time at the top of the mountain only to suffer the same lackluster fate? Well, one name that comes to mind is Adam Sandler. After starting off his comedy career with perhaps some of the greatest comedic work in cinematic history, he went from Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore to about 45 straight 4-on-10s. He's quite literally been coasting for 2 decades. At this point, the criteria to get Adam Sandler to sign on to a movie is if it's filming in a tropical location and if he can bring all his friends with him. Oh, and a boatload of money.
Wow, you hate your job, don't you?
That's literally all it takes, and it doesn't matter whatsoever to him if it's good or not.
Oh dear.
How is this possibly a model that continues to work? Sometimes I just don't understand Hollywood. He's been phoning it in since the mid-90s, yet the paychecks continue to roll in.
Assuming that's really happening and not some sort of terrifying nightmare.
Then again, the previews for his latest film, Uncut Gems, actually look pretty awesome, and the early reviews appear to be good, so maybe Sandler still has some gas left in the tank after all. I mean, his Netflix stand-up special earlier this year was surprisingly awesome as well. Maybe he is super talented after all, but just is choosy about when he wants to try.
Okay, moving on.
Perhaps there's no bigger movie star ever to grace a big screen than my man, copyright and pending, Denzel Washington. For a while, he was the #1 star in the world. If you got Denzel in your movie, it was a guaranteed success at the box office. Nowadays, not so much.
You think I'm crazy, right? Huh?
He's still a leading man, just on a much smaller scale. Since 2011, he's been in 8 movies: Safe House, Flight, Two Guns, The Equalizer, The Magnificent Seven, Fences, Roman J. Israel Esquire, and The Equalizer 2. I'd say comment below if you've seen any of these, but I don't want the comment section to be empty.
Are y'all watching this? That's it!
Maybe the toughest drop-off to watch has been John Travolta. Remember the guy from Saturday Night Fever, and from Grease, and Pulp Fiction, and Face Off? Well, since the turn of the millennium, it's been a steady trek downhill for Johnny Boy. Most recently, he starred in The Fanatic, which was written and directed by Fred Durst. Like, the guy from Limp Bizkit. Yeah, that Fred Durst. The movie apparently grossed $3,000 in its opening weekend. That's a lot of money if you were to, find it in an envelope in the park. That's not a lot of money for a major motion picture to gross at the box office, though. It's safe to say that Travolta's name isn't quite the draw that he used to be.
To be continued.
So we've examined the cases of Hollywood's elite who have sort of fallen from grace, but what about the ones who currently reign supreme? For starters, there's the biggest movie star in the world today, and I mean that both figuratively and literally, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. There's no telling how long his hot streak will last, but there doesn't appear to be any signs of slowing down anytime soon. He's one of the main faces of the Fast and the Furious franchise, the Jumanji movies, and pretty much anything where somebody beats up a bad guy or jumps through flames to save the day. He's the quintessential action hero, and that isn't going out of style anytime soon.
No.
Michael B. Jordan is also on a hot streak. Whether he's Eric Killmonger or Adonis Creed, everything MJ is in seems to be a success. Hopefully his time at the top of the Hollywood echelon has only just begun and he's able to stick around for a while. The same could be said for Zendaya, who's been a Disney sensation for quite some time, then became a household name following her appearance in Marvel's Spider-Man movies, and absolutely took over the entire industry as one of the stars of the hit show Euphoria. For all intents and purposes, Zendaya could do whatever she wants right now, and audiences will happily eat it up. There's also a final class of actors that I wanted to discuss. These are the ones that I like to refer to as the untouchables. They're so legendary that a failed project or two just couldn't tarnish their reputation. They're impenetrable. They're bulletproof. These people are in a class of all their own, who can do what they want, when they want, and how they want, and they'll always be beloved regardless. Take Bill Murray, for example. He's such a weirdo, but it's awesome. He's been known to show up at random house parties and do the dishes, pop into random bars in the middle of nowhere and start pouring drinks, or even shove people into swimming pools when no one else is around because no one will ever believe them if they try to retell the story. His acting career isn't any less peculiar. Apparently, he doesn't even have an agent or a manager. There's simply a phone number to call and try and get in touch with him. Producers and directors and screenwriters alike will leave a message and just keep their fingers crossed that he checks his messages in time. In fact, it's rumored that Murray was offered the part of Buzz in the original Toy Story, but missed out because he just didn't reply back. Despite all of his weirdness, it hasn't fazed his reputation in the slightest. If anything, it's only added to it. The same could be said for Joaquin Phoenix, who's had controversy after controversy, yet keeps coming back with masterful performance after masterful performance. Many thought his career would be unsalvageable after his awkward David Letterman incident and his ensuing foray into a rap career, but nope. Now, only a couple years later, he's the Joker and he's better than ever. And while we're talking about A-listers, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Meryl Streep. She hasn't dealt with as many controversies or scandals, but I also can't think of any professional in Hollywood who's been so consistently revered for so long. She's unsinkable.
That's right.
Everything she does is excellent, and there appears to be no end in sight for her lengthy and legendary career. She had her time in the sun, and then decided to stay there for as long as she wants. I can't think of too many other names who have managed to steadily remain a heavy hitter like that for so long. The same certainly can't be said for Robert De Niro.
See, that wasn't so hard.
Well, what do you think? Is there a name that we forgot to mention who fell off hard? Leave a comment in the section below letting us know who you think we should talk about. Before you go, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to ScreenRant to stay up to date on all of our latest releases. Until next time, bye-bye!